In every city, behind tall gates and shining towers, stories are written that the world rarely sees. This is the story of such a shadow, the story of a gateman, the story of a father unknown, the story of a son who grew without him, yet never truly escaped him. Musa's life was one of survival. In his youth, he had dreams, but poverty starved them before they could bloom. He drifted from one city to another, searching for stability. He worked in construction, as a porter, sometimes as a watchman. Wherever there was work, Musa bent his back and gave his strength. But there was a chapter of his life he never forgot, a chapter that haunted him in silence. Her name was Grace. They had met in the chaos of the city. She was young, determined, working small jobs to keep herself alive. He was restless, always moving, always searching. For a short while, their lives intertwined. They shared laughter, dreams, and love, though both were too poor to make promises about the future. Then, like smoke scattered by the wind, Musa disappeared. He left the city to chase opportunities. He never returned. Unknown to him, Grace was left behind with more than memories. She was left with a child growing inside her. When Grace gave birth to Daniel, she vowed to raise him with every strength she had. She never told the boy about his father, choosing instead to play both roles herself. Daniel grew up seeing his mother toil endlessly, washing clothes, selling goods, working until her hands blistered. Grace instilled in him a burning message: work hard, my son. Do not let your beginning decide your end. Daniel took those words to heart. He studied under streetlights when electricity failed. He borrowed textbooks when his mother could not afford new ones. His teachers noticed his brilliance, his determination, and soon scholarships carried him further than anyone imagined. One success led to another, and by the time he was in his late 20s, Daniel had built one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. His name appeared in newspapers. His face was on magazine covers. He became the youngest CEO the nation had ever seen. To the world, Daniel was a genius. To Grace, he was simply her boy, the child she had raised alone. While Daniel climbed into the heavens, Musa sank quietly into the ordinary. Age had bent his back, and hardship had humbled him. His last refuge was work as a gateman, a job many mocked, but one he carried out with dignity. Then, fate turned its wheel. Musa was reassigned to a new mansion in the wealthy part of the city. The mansion belonged to none other than Daniel, though neither of them knew of their bond. Every morning, Musa opened the heavy gates. Every evening, Daniel drove through, sometimes lowering his window to greet him warmly. Daniel always treated him with respect, unlike others who ignored their workers. Something about the young man stirred Musa, a familiarity he could not explain. Sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, Musa would whisper to himself, "Why does this boy feel like someone I've met before?" But he would shake the thought away, never imagining the truth that stood before him. One warm afternoon, Grace arrived at her son's mansion. Her car, sleek and black, rolled slowly to the gate. The windows were tinted, allowing her to see out while keeping her hidden inside. Musa, dressed in his simple gateman's uniform, stepped forward. As always, he carried himself with quiet dignity, opening and closing gates as though it were a sacred duty. From behind the tinted glass, Grace's breath caught in her throat. Time seemed to stop. The man outside, older now, gray-haired, shoulders slightly bent, was a face she had once known intimately. It was Musa, her runaway lover, the man who had abandoned her many years ago. Her eyes widened, her hand trembling as it clutched her purse. Memories of youth flooded back, their laughter, their whispered promises, and the bitter day he disappeared. Musa, however, saw nothing. To him, it was just another car, another guest of the mansion. He waved the driver in politely, oblivious to the storm brewing in the back seat. Grace leaned back against the leather seat, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The years had changed him, but she would know that face anywhere. The father of her son was right there at the gate. Inside the mansion, when Daniel welcomed her with a smile, Grace's thoughts were still outside, still on the man who had once been her whole world. That night, Grace sought Musa out. She found him sitting outside the servants' quarters, gazing at the sky. "Musa," she whispered. He turned sharply. His eyes widened. "Grace? No, it can't be." Her silence told him everything. Memories returned like rushing water. He rose to his feet, trembling. "You left me," she said, her voice breaking. "You left me with a child." His lips quivered. Child." "Yes," Grace said firmly. "A son. His name is Daniel. The man you serve every day is your son." Musa staggered back as if struck. "Daniel? My son?" His voice cracked with disbelief. But Grace's eyes were clear. She told him the truth. And in that moment, the world tilted beneath him. His son, the CEO, the man the world admired, was the boy he had never known. They agreed, however, to keep the truth hidden for now. Grace feared it would distract Daniel from his path. Musa felt unworthy, ashamed of his absence. And so, the mansion became a stage of silent suffering. The days that followed grew heavy with secrets. The stormy night, a violent storm tore through the city, cutting power to the mansion. Staff panicked, but Musa rushed to the generator room, risking his life to stop a fire. Daniel praised him the next day. "You're more than a gateman, Musa. You're family." Musa nearly wept at the irony. Armed robbers once tried to breach the mansion. Musa fought them with nothing but his courage. He was injured, but Daniel stayed by his bedside. Grace, watching, whispered silently, "If only you knew the truth." One afternoon, Daniel stumbled upon an old photograph of his mother with a younger Musa. "Mama, who's this?" he asked playfully. Grace snatched it back quickly. "Just someone from the past," she replied. Musa, listening from outside, felt his heart pound with fear. In every smile Daniel gave, Musa saw himself. In every sacrifice Musa made, Grace saw the father Daniel never knew. But secrets cannot stay buried forever. One evening, Musa collapsed at the gate. Staff rushed to his side. Daniel, horrified, ordered that he be taken to the best hospital. The doctor's verdict was grim. Musa's kidneys were failing. Without a transplant, he would not survive. Daniel spared no expense, paying for every treatment. He visited daily, sitting by Musa's bedside, though he couldn't explain why the man's suffering shook him so deeply. Grace knew the time for silence had ended. One night, in the quiet hospital corridor, she took her son's hands. "My son," she whispered, "there is something you must know. Musa is not just your gateman. He is your father." Daniel froze. The world seemed to stop. She told him everything. About her youth, about Musa's disappearance, about the child he never knew. Daniel sat in silence, anger and pain surging through him. But beneath it all was something stronger, compassion. The next morning, Daniel stood at Musa's bedside. The old man's eyes filled with shame. "I am sorry," Musa whispered. "I was a coward. I left. But I never knew. And if I die, at least I die knowing the truth." Daniel's eyes glistened. "No, you will not die. Because you are my father. And I will not let you go." Tests confirmed Daniel was a perfect match. Without hesitation, he volunteered to donate a kidney. The doctors warned him of the risks, but he stood firm. "If I can build empires," He said, "What is one kidney compared to saving the man who gave me life?" The surgery was long, tense. Grace prayed in the corridor, her lips trembling, whispering, "God, please don't take them from me." Hours passed like years. At last, the doctors emerged, smiling. The surgery was a success. Musa recovered slowly. Each day, Daniel visited him, not as employer and worker, but as father and son. They shared meals, told stories, and healed wounds that had festered for decades. When Musa regained his strength, Daniel bought him a comfortable home near the mansion, ensuring he would never work again. At the company's annual gala, Daniel stood before cameras and crowds and gave the most unexpected speech of his career. "People call me a genius, a visionary, the youngest CEO. But the man who taught me true success was never in a boardroom. He was at the gate. Tonight, I honor my father." The hall erupted in applause. And there, under the bright lights, Musa, once just a gateman, stood beside his son, tears streaming down his face. Grace watched from the audience, her heart finally at peace. The circle had closed. And so, the three of them stood together at last. Daniel, the son who conquered the world; Grace, the mother who carried the weight of sacrifice; and Musa, the father who found redemption at the gate of his own child's home. They had been broken apart by time, by choices, by silence, yet destiny had written their reunion in a language no one could erase. In that moment, they were no longer CEO, mother, or gateman. They were simply family, scarred, mended, and whole again. Because true wealth is not found in companies, or cars, or titles. True wealth is found when love finds its way home. Hope you enjoyed this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss more thrilling and inspiring stories like this. Tell me in the comments, what lesson did you take from this story? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay inspired, stay hopeful, and remember, sometimes, the greatest treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places.